Imagine a vast open landscape where the wind never truly settles. In this metaphorical expanse, a figure stands alone, representing the essence of leadership in its most raw and demanding form. Every thought, every quiet action, and every word spoken over the course of a lifetime has served as a silent architect, building the foundation for the person who stands there today. This individual has not arrived at this point by accident. They are the sum of 1,000 small decisions, a collection of habits and beliefs forged in the heat of experience. Whether this person is guiding a small volunteer group in the quiet hours of the evening, managing a children's sports team on a sun-drenched weekend, or overseeing a sprawling family household filled with its own unique complexities, the weight of responsibility remains the same. Leadership does not care about the size of the stage. It cares about the depth of the character standing upon it. In the professional spheres of the American continent or the bustling corporate hubs of Europe, the call for true leadership resonates with a desperate urgency. There is a sense that the world is waiting, perhaps even pleading, for individuals to step forward and occupy the space that only a prepared mind can fill. Governments often find themselves adrift, struggling to find a steady focus to lead not just their nations, but their own internal structures. Enterprises, caught in the relentless gears of global competition and complexity, search for the steady hand that can navigate through the fog of uncertainty. Even in the most intimate corners of society, in a local church facing a crisis of faith, or a family unit fractured by internal conflict, the absence of a guiding light is felt like a physical chill. The world is a patchwork of these needs, a tapestry where the threads of leadership are often frayed or missing entirely. When one envisions a successful leader, the mind might drift to the grand, visible figures whose names are synonymous with global industry or historical change. Yet the true power of leadership often resides in more humble roles: the supervisor who listens, the community leader who organizes, the partner who inspires growth within a relationship. These are the individuals who understand that their arsenal of tools is vast, yet so often underutilized. Most people move through their lives clinging to weaknesses that tether them to the ground, unaware that they possess the keys to their own liberation and the development of others. The journey of the leader is one of deep reflection, an exploration of how one wishes to grow, how one desires to foster future generations of thinkers, and ultimately, how one hopes to be remembered when the noise of the world finally fades. There is a specific kind of courage required to stand still when the world is in motion. It is the courage to remain upright while being lashed by the winds of peer pressure, the shifting opinions of the collective, and the rigid beliefs of the majority. It is an isolating experience to feel the push of a crowd moving in one direction, while your own internal compass points firmly in another. This tension is the crucible where a leader's true identity is tested. To hold a conviction that runs contrary to the popular narrative is not merely an act of defiance, it is a profound commitment to a perceived truth. But where does this truth come from, and why is it so difficult to maintain when everyone else is waving for you to follow their lead? The answer lies deep within the history and the mindset of the leaders themselves, waiting to be revealed in the moments of highest pressure. The convictions held by a leader are not fleeting thoughts or whims of the moment. They are the bedrock of their entire existence. These beliefs are constructed over years, piece by piece, through a combination of lived experience, acquired knowledge, and long-established principles. In the quiet corridors of a workplace in England, or within the innovative startups of Latin America, these convictions manifest in various forms. Some are rooted in a fundamental mindset regarding the nature of human effort and ethics. A leader might believe with every fiber of their being that hard work must be rewarded, that integrity is a non-negotiable currency, or that there is often only one true window of opportunity for success. These are the moral anchors that prevent the ship from drifting when the storm of public opinion begins to howl. Other convictions are more pragmatic, focused on the immediate goals and the survival of the collective. A leader may see with absolute clarity that a certain market must be entered, that an outdated system must be dismantled and replaced to ensure future success, or that a struggling division must be revitalized or closed to save the greater whole. These are not easy stances to take. They require a leader to look past the immediate discomfort of those around them and focus on the distant horizon. The tension arises when those who are being led cannot see that same horizon. They see only the change, the risk, and the disruption of the status quo. The leader stands in the middle of this disconnect, holding a vision that others might view as stubbornness or even folly, yet knowing that to abandon this vision would be to abandon the path to excellence. There is also the matter of methodology, the belief in how things should be done. A leader might have a deep-seated conviction that agility and speed are the only ways to survive in a modern landscape, or perhaps they believe that deep, slow collaboration is the only way to build something that lasts. These procedural beliefs shape the culture of an organization and the rhythm of a team. Occasionally, these convictions take on an even more holistic and long-term character. There is the profound belief that a product should not just be a commodity, but a force that changes the world for the better. There is the insistence that every decision made today must be sustainable, considering the environmental and social impact on the generations of tomorrow. These are the high-level ideals that elevate leadership from a mere job to a calling. Every leader carries the suitcase of opinions and convictions, but the most successful among them possess a rare and vital skill. They know exactly when to dig their heels in. They understand the difference between being difficult and being right. When the tide of opinion goes in the opposite direction, or when the perspectives of those they manage are fundamentally different, the successful leader evaluates the source of their own certainty. They recognize that their ideas are not just opinions, but the result of a rigorous internal process. However, the act of standing firm is only half the battle. The real challenge lies in the execution of that stance, how to remain unmovable without becoming unreachable. The conflict is not just between the leader and the group, it is often an internal struggle to balance the weight of one's own truth against the desire for harmony and collective approval.
Standing firm against the current of a group's expectations is one of the most psychologically taxing experiences a human can endure. There is a primal part of the human psyche that craves belonging and fears isolation. In a professional setting, this manifests as the winds of peer pressure, a force that can be just as eroding as physical weather. A leader might find themselves in a boardroom in Spain or a community meeting in the American continent, surrounded by voices that are all singing the same tune. To be the only one silent, or worse, the only one singing a different note, is to invite scrutiny, judgment, and even hostility. Yet the narrative of success is often written by those who refuse to join the chorus when the song was wrong. This development of character requires a deep exploration of why one believes what they believe. It is not enough to be contrarian for its own sake. That is the mark of an amateur, not a leader. A true leader takes the time to listen and reflect on the opinions and convictions of their collaborators. They do not dismiss the views of the majority out of hand. Instead, they try to understand the origin of those views. What fears, experiences, or data are driving the group toward a particular conclusion. By engaging with the group's perspective, the leader demonstrates a level of respect that is essential for maintaining relationships even when a disagreement is inevitable. This process of listening is not a sign of weakness. It is a strategic gathering of intelligence that allows the leader to better navigate the coming conflict. While the leader is listening to others, they are also conducting a rigorous internal audit. They must have an open mind about whether it is actually correct to maintain their contrary perspective. This is a moment of profound intellectual honesty. The leader asks themselves, am I holding on to this idea because of my ego, or because it is truly the best path forward? They reflect on their own mindset and the potential biases that might be clouding their judgment. This internal dialogue is what separates the visionary from the tyrant. The visionary is willing to be wrong, but they are also willing to be the only person who is right. If, after this period of intense reflection, the conviction remains solid, the leader prepares for the next phase, the bridge between their internal certainty and the group's external doubt. When the decision to stand firm is finalized, the leader must become a master of communication. It is not enough to simply say no or to insist on a direction without justification. They must be prepared to explain their feelings, their logic, and their intricate reasoning. By pulling back the curtain on their thought process, the leader invites the group into their perspective. This transparency serves a dual purpose. It justifies the leader's stance to themselves, and it increases the likelihood that others will eventually see the merit in the alternative path. It is a slow, often painful process of education and persuasion. The leader becomes a teacher, guiding their team through the same logical steps that led to their own conviction. But even with the best explanation, the friction of disagreement often leaves a heat that can be felt long after the meeting has ended. The peak of this narrative arc occurs at the moment of maximum friction, the climax of the confrontation between the individual and the collective. Imagine a scenario in a high-stakes environment in Europe where a critical decision must be made. The majority is pushing for a short-term gain that sacrifices long-term integrity, or perhaps they are advocating for a safe path that the leader knows will lead to obsolescence. The air is thick with tension. People may become irritated, their voices rising in frustration as they encounter the leader's unwavering stance. In these moments, the relationships that have been built over years can feel fragile, as if they might shatter under the pressure of this single point of contention.
The leader's greatest challenge during this turning point is to accept the discomfort and the potential anger of those around them. It is a lonely place to be. They must refuse to let this friction impact their professional relationships in a negative way, even when the other party is less than graceful. They hold on to the belief that with the passage of time, their collaborators will recognize the wisdom of this choice. This is a gamble of the highest order, a bet on one's own judgment against the collective wisdom of the room. It requires a level of emotional maturity that few possess, the ability to be the target of frustration without becoming defensive, and the ability to lead people who, at that moment, might not want to be led. However, there is a secondary revelation that often emerges in the midst of this struggle, a realization that redefines the leader's trajectory. They understand that while they must stand firm in their convictions, they must also remain aware that nothing in this world is truly permanent. The very convictions they are defending today have evolved from the insights and experiences of the past. Wisdom is not a static destination, it is a moving target. The same process of listening and reflection that led them to stand firm also allows them to recognize the exact moment when the ground shifts. There is a profound turning point when a leader realizes that being right is not a permanent state of being, but a constant rolling assessment of reality. This leads to a critical moment of clarity. The realization that sometimes, despite their best efforts and deepest beliefs, they might actually be wrong. The same winds that they resisted might in fact be carrying a truth they had not yet seen. This is the ultimate test of leadership. It is one thing to stand firm against a crowd. It is quite another to admit to that same crowd that your firm stance was based on an incomplete picture. The transition from the defender of a belief to the humble seeker of a new truth is the most dramatic evolution a leader can undergo. It requires a total collapse of ego in favor of the greater good. In the American continent or anywhere else in the world, the leaders who can navigate this transition from holding ground to yielding it when the facts change are the ones who truly achieve greatness.
In the aftermath of these intense periods of standing firm or admitting error, a new landscape begins to emerge for the leader and their team. If the leader was indeed correct and held their ground, the resolution often comes quietly. Over time, as the results of the decision begin to manifest, the irritation of the group fades, replaced by a growing respect. The collaborators begin to see the logic that was once hidden from them. They recognize that the leader's steadfastness was not an act of arrogance, but an act of protection, guarding the collective from a mistake they were all too eager to make. This creates a powerful shift in the team's dynamic. The leader's credibility is no longer just a title, but a proven track record. The internal transformation within the leader is equally significant. Each time they successfully navigate the pressure of the majority, their resolve becomes more tempered, like steel in a forge. They learn that they can survive the isolation and the heat of disagreement. They develop a more nuanced understanding of how to communicate complex ideas and how to manage the emotional fallout of conflict. This experience prepares them for the next challenge, making them more resilient and more confident in their ability to act as the compass for their organization or community. They move forward with a deeper sense of self-reliance, balanced by the knowledge that their role is to serve the truth, even when it is unpopular. On the other hand, if the resolution involved the leader admitting they were wrong, the aftermath is a study in humility and renewal. By admitting the fact with grace to their colleagues, the leader dismantles the barriers of hierarchy. They show that they are a student of life, just like everyone else. This act of embracing new ideas and ways of thinking creates a culture of psychological safety within the group. It signals to everyone that the pursuit of the correct answer is more important than the preservation of one's ego. The team learns that it is okay to change course, that growth requires the shedding of old skins, and that the leader is someone who values insight over being right. This settling period is where the true lessons of leadership are integrated into the soul. The leader reflects on the entire arc of the experience, the initial conviction, the pressure to conform, the struggle to communicate, and the final outcome. They see that their beliefs are living things, meant to grow and change as they gain more wisdom and experience. The realization settles in that leadership is not about having all the answers at the beginning, but about having the courage to seek them and the integrity to stand by them, or move on from them as the light of truth dictates. This internal and external transformation creates a more cohesive, adaptable, and forward-thinking environment, where the focus remains steadily on the pursuit of excellence.
As the journey through these challenges of conviction and change concludes, a profound philosophical truth emerges. Leadership is not a destination one reaches, nor is it a set of instructions to be followed blindly. It is a continuous act of creation, a process of becoming the person who can guide others through the complexities of human existence. The essence of a successful leader lies in their ability to balance the immovable strength of their convictions with the humble flexibility of a lifelong learner. This delicate dance between standing firm and knowing when to pivot is what defines the legacy of those who are truly admired and followed. In the grand tapestry of human endeavor, whether in the vibrant communities of Latin America or the established institutions of Europe, the most impactful leaders are those who treat their role as a sacred responsibility. They understand that their actions today are the seeds of the world tomorrow. By defending what they believe in, they provide a sense of direction and purpose to those who might be lost in the fog of popular opinion. But by remaining open to growth, they ensure that their direction is always toward a better, more enlightened future. They become the example that others want to emulate, not because they are perfect, but because they are authentic and courageous in their pursuit of what is right. The broader lesson here is that everyone possesses the potential for this kind of leadership within their own sphere of influence. It starts with the realization that every thought and action has been preparing us for the roles we occupy now. The need for this caliber of leadership is everywhere, in our schools, our businesses, and our homes. It is found in the willingness to reflect on oneself, to identify the tools we have been leaving in the shed, and to sharpen the skills that will allow us to rise above our weaknesses. It is an invitation to explore how we wish to be remembered and what kind of impact we want to have on the lives of those we lead. Ultimately, standing for something is an act of love. Love for the truth, love for the collective, and love for the potential of what can be achieved when one remains true to a vision of excellence. The winds of pressure will always blow, and the opinions of the group will always shift like the tides. But for the leader who has done the work, who has listened, reflected, and found their center, these forces are merely the background noise to a much more important melody. They leave the world with a sense of clarity and contemplation, reminding us all that the most powerful thing a person can do is to believe in something with all their heart, while having the wisdom to let that belief evolve into something even greater.